Hello, this is the Provoked Prawn and I'm here with a behind the scenes look at a video that I'm working on, which is going to be the Corsair iCue Link setup, which I'm going to do in the 5000D airflow. So this case already has that build in that you might have seen with the massive mega RGB setup, which means there's a lot of things to take out of it. So I'm going to give you a view of that and also what I'm going to do there. Now the Corsair iCue Link, if you don't know already, is going to be pretty interesting and awesome because it basically all interconnecting stuff, basically helps reduce the amount of cabling, a lot less cables, very simplistic design. So the idea that I'm going to try and craft with this video is to show you just how much cable chaos is going in the back here, and then what this could do to your system instead. Now I'm a bit late in this build with this video, unfortunately, and that's because I'm not a big enough deal to get this early like some other YouTubers. So if you like prawn stuff, smash subscribe and then tell Corsair how awesome I am and maybe they'll send me it earlier in future. So unfortunately, I'm well behind the curve in terms of other people already having content out on this, but plan is to do obviously this behind the scenes guide and then a setup with it to demonstrate the difference between them, and then also probably just an unboxing and review of the parts and sort of the logic of the wiring, so a guide on how to set it up and how to use it, because I think that'll be useful to people, even though it should be fairly straightforward. In fact, it'll probably be a lot more straightforward than the standard setup, which, if you're aware of Corsair stuff, I mean, I can't even remember what I've got going on back here, but usually with these builds with multiple RGB things in, you end up with multiple controllers. It's okay, I've got one commander core and then USB hub and multiple LED nodes and RGB hub and then the PWM controller. I think last time I did one of these I ended up with two commander cores, or a commander core and a commander pro, and LED nodes and RGB hubs. But you can see just sort of how mad the cabling is back here. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to start by actually cable tying a lot of stuff to try and make things a lot tidier. Also going to strip out everything, obviously. I've got to remove all the fans. Corsair's enough that I can swap the fans that are in here already, which I think are the AF120 RGB Elite fans. So I can swap them out for the QX120s instead. And then obviously I've got to swap out the radiator. I need to clean up the CPU. I've got to reinstall, because this is a different radiator. So interesting highlight here is the iCue Link H150i RGB doesn't have a LCD screen on it, which is a shame because that's actually going to be a downgrade in a way, because this one's got the screen on it. It's an upgraded H150i Elite Caplix with a LCD screen, which gives you GIFs and readouts and other things, and I really like that design. I might actually hijack that radiator for my personal build, because I'm thinking about changing up my build. And then I'm going to install this. So there's going to be some differences. I think it could be an interesting journey. So I'm going to start with that, then I'm going to unbox this, do sort of setup clips of that, and then obviously wire it into the system and then get before and after shots to show the difference between those, and then obviously talk about the differences and show off things like that. So I thought it might be interesting to see behind the scenes look at this, because this is actually going to be quite a mission, because I'm obviously not starting from scratch. I have to disassemble something first and then reassemble it and also get all the footage of this. So it's probably going to take a few hours, but hopefully an interesting insight. But once again, if you like my stuff, smash subscribe, like and comment, because that really helps boost these videos up in the algorithm and help encourage brands to send me things sooner so that I can get content out for you. Appreciate you. While looking at this and thinking about what I'm going to be taking out, one of the things I realised is actually I'm going to need to keep one of these things in here, and I think that's this LED hub, and that's because I've got the lighting triangles in there. Corsair's also sent this anti-sag bracket, which actually has the ability to hold lighting triangles in it. So you can install lighting triangles in the bottom of it, and it's basically for putting in the bottom of the case and helping that your PC not sag. So that's like a little mini video on its own. It seems a bit mad to do an unboxing video on it. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do there, but I think it might be useful to people. I know the 5000D is really popular. I personally like it quite a lot, and my videos on it have done well, and I think people like this case, and for good reason. It is a nice case. But in terms of anti-sag, obviously that'd be beneficial to have. The other thing I want to do is to revisit vertical mounting of the GPU. So it's currently set up in the standard position, but I'd like to do vertical mounting of it. I'm actually going to use an NZXT bracket for that, which of course they probably won't like, but they don't have a very good bracket for it. I don't believe, and I have asked, that there's a vertical bracket officially from Corsair. Now, one of the things I do have is down here on the side, there's a removable tray so that you can actually install a GPU there. And I have actually done it in the past because there's points here where you can install a PCIe cable. So they've got a PCIe extender cable that you can use, and then you can just store your graphics card there. But I did a test on this and showed that it's actually a terrible idea unless you're custom liquid cooling, because you're putting it really close to the glass. But with the NZXT one, it actually uses these brackets, the standard brackets, so you can sit it back further. So it sits back much further. You have to take out all the brackets and then you're basically seating it further back. So I'm going to test that by running this GPU in the standard position and then swapping it around into vertical mount at some point. Probably not today because there's a lot of other things to do. It's going to take too long to do all this, but I thought that would be interesting. So I wouldn't recommend using this unless you're doing a custom system where you've got a water block attached to this. Because what happens is you flip that round, you put it here, it's really close to the glass. There's basically the smallest gap here and it just chokes the GPU out and then it just runs too hot. And I've done a video separately on that if you want to see. I did it ages ago, but I thought it would be interesting to revisit it because there's bound to be people that want to vertically mount their GPU in this case. And maybe they don't realise the other options. Corsair, I don't believe, does an official one. I did ask them and they said there wasn't one. They haven't got an official bracket that would sit in here, but there are other options from other brands. And the NZXT one that I've been using is pretty nice. So I've used that in a couple of different cases now, the H9 Elite and the H7 Flow RGB. And I'm pretty sure it will fit in here as well. It seems to be pretty universal. You just need to remove all those brackets and then it sits further back. So I might do that. We'll see how we get on. I might do it later today. We'll see. I've just done something that I never do, which is cable tied the hell out of this case. So I just cable tied all the cables down here, all the power cables in multiple places, and clipped it to the case down here as well, there, which I never do because usually I'm going to take a case apart and rebuild it. And if you've got a really tight cable attached to a loop, it's really difficult to cut that back out again without damaging the cable. But what I want to do essentially is create a really awesome, neat looking build here. The one thing that's looking a bit messy still is this LED hub, but I'm purposely leaving it like this because those are the nodes for the triangles, so for the lighting triangles. So I've repositioned everything. I've taken all the hubs off the back of here and around here. I've got the NZXT hub still. I don't think I'm actually going to need it, but I'm leaving it for the moment. It's currently got 2 USB connections on. Actually, just one to be fair. One from that hub. I've stripped down the front, so all the fans and everything's gone now. Basically, all I've got is the GPU plugged in. And CPU's cleaned up. I've left the brackets on for the original cooler because the new cooler's probably going to use the same ones. So rather than start from scratch, I'm just going to do that. I'm not too happy with this cable still. It's quite difficult to get these cables looking neat, but basically the idea is it's going to create a mega good looking build and then have, you know, what you could do versus the original. So now I've done that. That's taken probably an hour. I'm going to have to start unboxing the iCue Link stuff. So now I'm getting there. There's a front tray mounted with 3 of the QX120 fans. Obviously intake. And the system's pretty cool. So nifty little box, basically. I mean, this is the one from the cooler, but it's the same logic. It has a little connector on it. This is obviously stored at the back, and then it runs in, and it looks like it can plug in at the top or the bottom, so it'll plug in there like that, and then obviously this just runs in the back of the case, or alternatively down the bottom here, like that, which is neat, right? But then I've come into an interesting problem, because what I want to do is I've replaced the AF120 RGB Elite fans to this, obviously, and then I replaced the cooler with the iCue Link H150i, and then the idea was to have another fan at the back, which would be the exhaust fan, which again replaces the AF120 RGB Elites. But I don't know how to connect it, because for some reason in the triple pack you get this sort of setup. So you get this 3 fans, the control box, the cables, and the PCIe power from your power supply unit, USB connection, and that's it. It's fairly straightforward. There's another cable here which is for the CPU AIO pump header, but that's irrelevant. And then this box can control multiple fans. I think it's up to 14 different devices in here, so that's pretty neat. Pretty incredible, really, that you can have such a small controller to control that many devices, although there are only 2 plugs. So that's something to bear in mind, because you'd need to somehow connect all these together. But the weird thing is they don't supply you with extra cables, which I don't understand. So there's no extra cable here, which means, how do I connect this fan to the system? Now this single fan comes in a pack on its own, and all you get is the fan and some screws, no controller and no cable. So does it connect via magic? Now I feel like I must be missing something, so I messaged Corsair to ask what's going on, because I've definitely looked in the box. So this is the iCue Link QX120 RGB fan. It's just a single fan, and it's meant to be an expansion. It literally says expansion kit on it. There's literally nothing in here. Like I said, all you get is the, yeah, even on the box, right, it says you've got the fan, the screws, and then basically some little clips, which can be seen here, which are meant to fill in the holes. So if you're not using these holes, basically on the side where you plug the cable in, you're meant to fill them in so that they don't get covered in dirt and dust, and that then presents a problem. But there's no cable. I don't understand it. So what seems like a simple system is great if you're only using 6 fans. So if I have these as intake, and then I have 3 fans on the radiator for the all-in-one cooler, that's fine. I won't connect the 2 together. They'll both go into the same controller, but the fans aren't connected. But you can't do anything more. Now you can just get a fan and then connect it onto the end, as long as you've got the things in place, which I've actually taken off now. But they are magnetic as well, so they have a magnetic element to them, but there's also a joining clip, which I've removed and put somewhere. I put in the box, I think. But so if you had a 420mm radiator, that'd be fine. But for what I want to do, I actually can't do it, which is weird. So I'm going to wait for Corsair to comment on that and tell me what to do. And then I'm going to do a video on the sort of connectivity of it, because it's still not obvious. The other thing that was funny is the H150i cooler has a QR code to scan in there, and it says read the manual before you start, but when you scan that QR code, it just takes you to the home page at the moment. Hopefully they'll update that, or hopefully they don't update that, and then people will come and watch my videos instead. I've just had an update from Corsair, literally 2 seconds after recording the last clip, and they've said, yeah, you need to buy an additional cable which you can get separately. So now I've got a fan I can't do anything with, which is not too smart. Obviously I could get that cable, but now delays my video, although it does help because it means that I can mention it in the video, so watch out for that. Future Prawn here, and the cables did show up eventually that day, a few hours after making the initial clips and starting with the process. So you can buy this kit here with multiple different cables in it, or you can buy individual cables. It's a bit mad to me that you have to buy cables and that the single fan doesn't just come with a cable, but when you've got that, you can then connect the cable to the fan and then to the hub, or from one fan to another in a separate group, as I'm about to do with a single fan at the rear of the case as exhaust. You can then connect that up from there to the radiator fans, and then the whole system's just set up, and it's pretty marvelous, to be honest. It was a wonderful build doing this. Now, it did take me hours and hours to cable tidy up all the back, remove all the old stuff, and then install the new things. I think if you were starting from scratch with a brand new 5000D case with no fans in it, and then you just wanted to install the iCue Link setup, you'd have a dream. Now, I've got that anti-sag bracket installed as well with the lighting triangles in it, and let me tell you, that was a mission because they kept falling out, but the end result is pretty nifty. Be sure to check out the full video on this. I'm also going to do a review and a guide at some point, so there will be more content coming. Hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching. Oh, and if you're interested, I also recorded a whole lot of the cable tidying section, and I really wanted to post it as a video, so I've gone and stuffed that over on my ASMR channel. So if you're into just listening to cables being tied and other things like that, go check out my ASMR channel and subscribe there if you aren't already. Link in the description.